blessed good morning to all. We're not quite fully back at college properly as yet. We had a major issue somewhere on the road where our fiber was cut, and so there's some time being taken to have it replaced. So we're still sort of semi-limping, but it's good to be here. And it's good to be able to continue to share with you these various mornings. Today is a new day. It's Wednesday. It's the middle of the week. And we're all here. And we're all thankful that we can continue to journey together for as long as we're able. Because we know that life happens. Things change, things move on, persons move on from this dimension and go on with their spiritual journey, their soul's journey. And so as long as we're able to be present to each other in this incarnation, this physicality, it is truly a joy to be able to do so and to share these moments with you. So we ask God's presence with us as we turn our attention to our breath. And remember, the whole reason for paying attention to the breath is to be able to come into our bodies. We spend so much time in our heads. And so we come into our bodies, we find that sense of awareness and presence as we breathe in consciously and breathe out consciously, as we fill our hearts with gratitude and bring to mind anything that would cause us to have that wonderful sense of gratitude, recognizing that yes, there are things that occur in our lives that we are so thankful for, but sometimes they come with mixed blessings. But we learn how to embrace it all, knowing that in the fullness of time all shall be revealed to us. So we come into that space, into that deep sense of divine love, and knowing myself as a divine person. This is so important. We always seem to think of ourselves as apart from God. But our Lord Jesus, if there was one thing He tried to get us to understand, was that God is here. God is with us. God is within us. There is no separation. So as we breathe this morning, we breathe consciously this morning. Do so with awareness of that divine gift of presence. And just feel what it means to be present. To become conscious of our bodies on the inside, to be still and to feel the sensations that go on moment by moment within us. Feel the energies as they move. Be aware. Be aware as witnesses, witnessing all that is taking place within us. And going deeper and deeper. And oftentimes we're encouraged to bring that sense of relaxation to our minds, because it appears as though the more we relax ourselves, the deeper we sink within our own selves. Just notice where there's any tension in our bodies, any discomfort. And bring our attention into that space and just allow it to relax. Allow it to surrender, to give way, to open. So that we may sink deeper. Like a diver in the ocean, having to make the effort to go deeper. The first few feet comes easy, but the more one tries to go deeper, the more effort is required. But the effort here is the effort of letting go, the effort of sinking. Allowing ourselves to simply be. And feel the energy as we share it with each other. As we sink deep into our being. And letting go of everything on the surface. All the things that preoccupy us and prevent us from discerning our true selves. In this space now we turn to our text for today. Reading from Mark's Gospel, 4th chapter. The next time Jesus taught beside Lake Galilee, a big crowd gathered. It was so large that he had to sit in a boat out on the lake while the people stood on the shore. He used stories to teach them many things, and this is part of what he taught. Now listen. A farmer went out to scatter seed in a field. While the farmer was scattering the seed, some of it fell along the road and was eaten by birds. Other seeds fell on thin, rocky ground and quickly started growing because the soil wasn't very deep. But when the sun came up, the plants were scorched and dried up because they had not have enough roots. Some of the seeds fell where thorn bushes grew up and choked out the plants, so they did not produce any grain. But a few seeds did fall on good ground, where the plants grew and produced 30 or 60 or even 100 times as much as was scattered. And Jesus said, if you have ears, pay attention. Here ends the reading. The prayer for God's presence in our lives. The prayer for God to be in our understanding, that we may grasp what is being shared, that we're able to perceive beyond that which is obvious and to reap the real fruit. The courage to make the effort to discern, to understand, to know. As we continue our theme for this week, called out, worked out, sent out, we are being encouraged to recognize the importance of being able to understand a little more deeply. One of the practices that Jesus employed was that of sharing these general stories to persons. Stories that on the surface meant something. Persons could resonate with them. But in reality, this was but the surface or the superficial dimension of the story. There were layers. And this is, in reality, one of the age-long practices of spiritual masters. They give stories. They hardly ever speak plainly, but they give stories. And the idea behind the story is to be able to understand that the story points to something which is greater than itself, in a way that when one speaks specifically to something, one is not always able to grasp the fullness of the content, because we have minds that are very linear and they are very restrictive. But when we tell a story, there is almost an invitation to become the story, to become an aspect of the story, to see where in the story I fit, whether or not that story has anything whatsoever to do with human existence. But there is that sense that we get lost in stories. And depending on where we are in our journey, in our sense of awareness, the story takes on totally different significance. And so Jesus used this method so often. And it was, in a sense, helping to draw persons out, to call them out. And the thing about being called out is that the calling out is oftentimes about readiness. Am I ready to be called out? Am I conscious enough to hear that I'm being called out? Because the same message might come time and time again, but if I'm not ready, if I'm not in that space, I just hear the story and not the calling out. And then there is that sense of, yes, I may be called out, but am I ready to work out? Am I ready to engage it and to strengthen myself by virtue of what I'm hearing? The parable of the farmer who goes out to sow seeds is but an example. We can stay on the surface and we can hear the story. Almost like the the story itself, where some of the seed falls on the surface. And the seeds that fall on the surface are able to satisfy the birds. So there isn't a loss of the seed. Because in the grand scheme of things, we're in a closed system. So everything benefits something in some form or fashion. So the seed that falls on the ground is not wasted. The birds have had the meal. And so we realize that as we turn our attention away from the specific nature of the story and we open ourselves up, then we feel that experience of things beginning to surface within us. Understandings begin to emerge based on where we are and based on how much we are willing to allow things to manifest, to come up. Like any real education process, remembering that the word for education is a word that means to lead out. Lead out that which is already present, already deep within, but is waiting to be unlocked, to be released. And that's what these stories do, or are intended to do, to unlock the depth of our being. Because there is that sense, that real sense that we already know the truth. And I must admit that in the past I've had challenges really embracing that idea. Because you're thinking that, well, I didn't know that. You know, you go to school and they teach you things. They teach you various structures, various methods, various ways of seeing or understanding the world, geography and science, etc. And it seems that all that's being put in. And while that may be so on a particular level, in reality, if we begin with an understanding that as a soul, I know all things. As a soul, I know all things. Then when I sit in my class, what is really happening is that I am being reminded. I am being given methods to recall, to bring forth, to bring out that which is already there. So education is, in fact, truly leading out. So I'm being led out. My true self is being led out. And so this work is not a work on the level of the physical. This human journey is not a work on the level of the physical. It's a soul work. It's a rediscovering of the I am, that I am. It is a rediscovering. It is a reknowing. And that's what makes it so wonderful. I've already been there. I already know. But I have forgotten. And this journey of my soul is a journey of coming home. Coming home to myself, to my true self, to the knowing. And so we find that various methodologies are employed, but all with the purpose of allowing the knowing. To what degree do we come to that knowing? Depends very much on ourselves and what our intention or purpose is. Like the story, the knowing may be 30%, the knowing may be 60-fold, the knowing may be a complete renewing of the self. But that is the goal, the bearing of fruit, the knowing of who I am in this world. So as we continue this journey of ours, the journey of remembering, the journey of discovery, a discovery not of things that are not known, but a discovery of that which already is. As we continue this journey, as we are called out, worked out, prepare ourselves to be sent out as ones who have remembered fully who they are.